So what we were going to do to get started is do a real quick icebreaker, but don't panic because I don't like icebreakers where I feel uncomfortable and awkward. So I'm not going to make you do that. But the reason we're doing this is so that when people are coming in, because it's hard to park and they're traveling, this just gives us some leeway. So here are your instructions. We're going to do this very quickly because there's a lot of people in the room. Just say your name, say what county you're from, so we have an idea what part of the state you're from, and then just you're going to say one word of what you're bringing to the summit today. So you got to think for a second. What are you bringing to the room today? What are you bringing to the group? For example, my name's Pam Toler. I'm from Saline County. Normally as a trainer, I bring the flexibility, but today, since I'm not training today, I'm just getting to be part of this group, I'm bringing anticipation for this summit today. So does that make sense? So I talk too much. Okay, so Pam Toler, Saline County, anticipation.
My name is Alyssa Fox. I am from Pulaski County, and I am bringing interest.
Great.
Amy Thomason, Garland County, Hope.
Ooh.
Peggy Woodall, Garland County, love.
Yay.
Terry Clark, Garland County, questions.
I thought you were going to say faith, because then we were going to have faith, hope, and love all right there together. Now, y'all thought you were off the hook and got to wait and think of your word, but you're not. I'm coming over here. Oh, and by the way, if someone takes your word, it's okay. You can say that word again because there's lots. If that's what you're bringing, it is what it is. So if someone steals your word, don't panic. You can say it still.
Jason Hendricks, White County.
And hope. And you can also say pass, because anyone can pass. Okay.
Misty Boatman, White County, excitement.
Yeah.
Stacy Hopkins, White County, beginnings.
Ooh.
Bertie Wells, Newton County, readers.
Oh, she's bringing readers.
Ron Wells, Newton County, I brought Prairie.
You I'll go right here. Hi,
Elaine Nebo, Clark County, enthusiasm.
Susan Duran, Boone County, curiosity.
Ooh. Hi, Jody.
Pulaski County, wherever. I'm short 6 subs in my building today, so I think I'm bringing insanity.
Are you bringing some stress?
Hopefulness.
Great.
Laura Powell, I'm from Polk County. Open mind. Can I use a hyphen?
Yes,
Okay, great.
open-minded. You can do anything you want, really, so there's no rules.
Sandy Goss, Bradley County,
Interest.
Amy Young, Boone County, inquisitiveness.
Oh, she's got a fancy word.
Akayla Jones, Pulaski County, curiosity.
More curiosity.
That's why we're joined the same table. I'm Carlton Davis from Warren, Bradley County, curiosity.
And more curiosity. So I take it the people who are curious are maybe not part of affiliates or yet? Yes? No? Where are my curious people? There was some more curious. Oh, okay. There's a lot of curiosity in the room today. You killed the cat, you know. How about you?
Sandra Barnett, Pulaski County, curiosity.
Oh, wow. No pressure. Okay.
Carrie Terry, Sebastian County, creativity.
Yay.
Mitzi Little, Sebastian County, stress from driving in Little Rock.
Okay, so if you need to go to the love table, there's one up here and there's one up there. Okay.
Eddie Lee Herndon, Sebastian Crawford, Logan Franklin. And,
Okay.
I'm bringing support.
Thank you.
Alexis Alexander, Union County, I'm bringing theft because I want to steal ideas.
She is a thief. Theft. She's bringing theft. She's going to steal all our ideas. That's great. That's very creative. That's creative. We all need to get together.
Katie McIntyre, Arkansas County, and growth.
Growth. Thank you.
Barbara Martin, Boone County, I think questions.
Good.
Candace Williams, Chico County, ears.
And by the way, if y'all didn't get the memo about the red and black, sorry.
Eleanor Williams, Phillips County, positivity.
Positivity. Thank you.
I'm Rhonda Betchner with Prairie County, and I bring curiosity as well.
Great.
I'm Brittany Mitchell with Saline County, and I'm bringing creativity.
Yay.
Jerry Ponder, Saline County, energy.
Yay. I need some of that.
Natalie Southern, Saline County, and I'm bringing
Hope. And she's not bringing her baby.
I'm Stephanie Meineke with the Arkansas Nonprofit Alliance, and I bring information.
Yay. How about you?
Mike Merton I'm from Faulkner County, and I guess old memories because I'm sitting with some old colleagues and friends from my hometown.
Now, there's nobody old at this table.
Brenda Williams. I'm from Des Arc, and I bring support.
Thank you.
I'm Beth Gallion from Des Arc, and I bring belief.
Oh, there's the faith.
Nancy Lenhart, Pulaski County, collaboration.
Ooh, one of my favorite words.
I kept beckoning for you to come this way, and nobody has said my word. Isn't that awesome?
Yes.
I'm Jackie Govan. I'm in Pulaski County, and I bring motivation.
Oh, thank you. Did I get everybody? Did I skip? I got everybody?
2 of us came in.
Came in later. Okay.
Hi, I'm Peggy Sissel, and I am representing 2 organizations. One, Words to Grow On, which is a collaborative organization with the Imagination Library, and also the Bridge the Word Gap Research Collaborative, which is a nationwide effort.
And you bring one thing to the training, the summit today. One word.
Expertise.
Ooh, man. No pressure on me. Was there one more person that came in late? They said? Oh.
I'm Marianne Williams, and I bring anxiety.
So anxiety can get with insanity and stress, and y'all need other people at your table can tamp that down some. Did I get everybody? Is there anybody left? Okay, so, I confess I've done this presentation like 1,000 times. So if you have seen it before, I'm a one-trick pony. It's the same presentation, it's the same jokes, it's the same analogies, the same examples. I apologize in advance. Can I just see who's already seen this, maybe on YouTube or in person? Oh, I know, I hate that. I'm sorry, but it is what it is. So, for all of you who are new, though, I can, I'll fake it. Okay. So, this is the presentation that I do around Saline County. I work for A-State, but I'm the coordinator for the Imagination Library of Saline County affiliate. And so I go around speaking to, just like you do, I'm sure, civic organizations, school districts, whoever will invite me and listen to me. And so this presentation, you're going to see a lot of Saline County stuff in it because that's what it is, and I didn't create a new one for today. Part of my work with A-State is I work with all things birth to 5. I'm a classroom evaluator, and I've actually got some people in the room whose rooms I evaluate, so don't throw anything at me. I do technical assistance visits, and I also do trainings for early childhood professionals. So that's my day job. So what you're going to see is kind of a mix of how my professional work informs my volunteer work with Imagination Library. Okay. So first, a little bit about brain development. So can y'all see okay, or I feel like I'm kind of in a weird spot. Okay. So a baby is born with 100 billion brain cells, and they're called neurons. And everybody's born with them. It's kind of about all you're going to get, about 100 billion brain cells. And one way you can think of it is they're like little light bulbs in your brain, all these neurons. But they're not lit up yet. They're not wired yet. So the way a neuron gets wired is when a child learns something. So that neuron connects with another neuron because that baby has learned something. And there are, in the first few years of life, 700 new neural connections every second. 700 every second. So it's an incredible, incredible rapid brain growth that happens in those first few years of life. So this is what the human brain at birth looks like, and you can kind of see those connections, starting to happen. And this is what it looks like at their 4th birthday. So one neuron might connect with 15,000 other neurons, and it starts building a circuitry, right? A wiring, a neural network that brain gets wired. Now the brain growing, the neurons and the connections, that happens genetically. But what's not genetic, what is 100% dependent on how strong that architecture is 100% dependent on that child's early experiences, in those interactions with adults. So when a connection happens between neurons, that child has learned something. If it gets repeated, that connection gets thicker and stronger and more dense and more sturdy, and you've got this great architecture of the brain. Conversely, if something negative, and so we want positive connections to happen, right? Reading and talking and touching, and someone picked me up when I cried, and someone met my needs when I needed something. The same thing kind of happens, though, negatively. If a child is a victim of abuse or neglect, those same things that baby learns, that gets wired permanently too. So this is from the Harvard University Center on the Developing Child, and this is my favorite slide in the whole world. It's why I do what I do. These graphs show you, these peaks show you the peak of the architecture when it's formed. So can y'all see? That pink box is the first year of life. So that architecture for acquiring language, come on in, acquiring language peaks in the first year of life. The architecture required for that higher cognitive functioning, this executive functioning, problem solving, negotiating, making decisions, having good judgment. Do you see when that peaks, when the formation of the brain peaks? Right here. It peaks in the first 5 years of life. So 85% of a child's intellect, their social skills, and their personality, the architecture for that brain development happens in the first 5 years of life. Now, 95% of our public education dollars are K through 12, but all that rapid brain development happens in the first 5 years of life, so we kind of got it backwards. So think of it like this. Do y'all remember, it's so nice. I'm talking to a room that is kind of more my age. A lot of times when I do trainings, these teachers are getting younger and younger and younger. And I'll say something about dial-up computer connections, and they just, what? They don't even know. They never had a life without computers, but we do, right? We know what it was like before the internet, and then we got personal computers that cost $500,000, and then you had dial-up, right? So do you remember what it was like to try to get on the internet and surf with dial-up? Right? You could turn it on and go wash your hair and come back and hope there was a connection or whatever. So think of trying to download a YouTube video on a dial-up computer connection. What would that be like?
Impossible.
Agonizing, impossible, frustrating, right? But if you have a high-speed internet connection and you're watching a YouTube video, are you even thinking about your connection? You're just watching the video, right? So it's the same thing with little baby brains. If a child gets what they need in those first 5 years of life, they had those great, a lot of experiences and those personal experiences, and they had that sturdy, strong architecture and that wiring of the brain. When they show up to kindergarten and that teacher's downloading the YouTube video, downloading the content in her classroom, that baby's getting it. That 5-year-old's getting what they needed and how they needed it, quickly, efficiently, and it's a smooth transition process. But if the child didn't get what they needed and they've got that dial-up baby brain, and they go to kindergarten, it's agonizing, it's frustrating, it's impossible because they just don't have the wiring needed to get the content from the teacher. So it's really, really important that we give those children what they need those first 5 years of life. So here's just one more way of looking at it. If a baby's body grew as fast as his brain, at 1 month of age, he would weigh 170 pounds. Isn't that crazy? 170 pounds. That's how rapid that brain development is happening. So meet baby Grace. Do you want to come on in and sit down? Go right ahead. Right there. She got the memo about the red and black, just saying. So meet baby Grace. Baby Grace is a very typical child in the state of Arkansas. She goes to childcare about 7:30 in the morning. And she gets picked up about 5:30 in the afternoon. That's very typical in Arkansas. And let's say she didn't have to go to child care until she was 4 months old, although most places I work with, they start at 6 weeks. But let's say she was lucky enough to go 4 months old and she stays there all the way to the end of kindergarten. Let's take out 2 weeks every year because she gets to go to the beach, like she gets to go to Gulf Shores. I think everybody in Arkansas goes to Gulf Shores if they go on vacation, or the lake. Let's take out sick days, let's take out holidays, let's take out days that the child care center is closed for professional development or for whatever reason, okay? So 4 months to the end of kindergarten, how many hours is baby Grace in someone else's care? A lot. Very technical term there. 11,500 hours. That's more hours than she will be in kindergarten through the end of 9th grade. Now, my phone's ringing, just ignore that. Children, when they're awake and ready to play, the 70% of the time that children are awake and ready to learn, ready to build that architecture, wire those neurons, is during the day. So let's put all that together. Her brain, 85% of the architecture of her brain is being built in the first 5 years of life. 70% of the time that she's awake and ready to learn and build that architecture, she's in childcare, and she's in childcare more hours then from kindergarten through the end of 9th grade. How important is it that we get those first years right? And we get those early childhood child care centers and daycare centers and family homes and parent homes, even if they're at home with their parent. How important is it that we get it right those first 5 years? So there's tons and tons of research out there about the early years and the effect on the adults later. So what I did was I dumped it all in one slide. I'm going to need a little cheat sheet because it's a lot of numbers and I don't want to get them mixed up. So if baby Grace gets what she needed, and every child like her in the state of Arkansas, if she gets what she needed in those first 5 years of life, here's what happens. She is 50% less likely to need special education when she gets to K through 12. She is 40% less likely to have to be retained in a grade, which doesn't work anyway, just so you know. She's 28% less likely to be involved in drug use. She is 70% less likely to be arrested for a violent crime and 46% less likely to be involved in the criminal justice system at all. She is 40% less likely to become a teen parent, and if she does become a teen parent, she'll delay that by 2 years, which when you're a teenager is a lot of time. So she's going to be a lot less likely to be on the welfare system and getting government assistance in any way. Come on in. Okay, so that's all the money we've saved. So let's look at the money we gain, the resources produced. Her IQ will be higher. You can influence a child's IQ 25 points plus or minus, dependent on what that child gets in the first 5 years of life. She's 3 times more likely to graduate high school. She's 80% more likely to attend college if you've graduated high school. She's going to have a higher rate of employment and make more money when she is employed. She's more likely to own a home. She's going to be paying into our tax base instead of draining it. That makes sense, right? If I got what I needed in that early start when my brain was developing so rapidly and that architecture's being built, it sets you up for the rest of your life. So when you put all the money together that was saved, combined with all of the resources that are produced, you get a fancy thing called an ROI. Now, who knows what that is? Where are my bankers in the room? Return on investment. I have some bankers in the room. Your return on your investment. So for every $1 that you invest, you get average $7 to $9 back. Now tell me, where can you invest money like that legally and get that kind of return on your investment? You can't. And actually the number is as high as $17, but this is the average return on your investment. But there's one study out there that there's a $17 return. I just watched a video yesterday that made a really good point. They said even if it were a $1 to $1 investment, we should do it for humanitarian reasons. But even a 2 to 1 return on your investment, it's a no-brainer. And when you're looking at $7, $8, $9, all the way up to $16, $17 return on your investment, why aren't we doing it? Why aren't we investing more money in those first 5 years of life? It's so much cheaper to build a child up right than to fix an adult later. Would you build a house and then put in the electricity and the plumbing? No, that's crazy. So it's so important that we invest early. So this guy, if you're not familiar with him, you do have some information in your packets about him. Dr. James Heckman, he won the Nobel Prize in Economic Sciences. He did his studies in the investment in human capital. He's all about soft skills. You can check out the HeckmanEquation.org. There's lots of wonderful resources on there. But he's the one that put all the economics and the science to the studies and came up with that $7 to $9 return on your investment, that average. So here's his graph. I stole it off his website. And I hate that you're filming because I'm talking about theft. I've stolen all of this information. Okay, education. But you can see, right? So this part over here is where the brain is so malleable. And this is your return on investment post-school, and it actually goes down the older you get. So we put a lot of money in, I think I took it out, like Medicare and Social Security and all that. We invest all this money, which we need to do, but we can't neglect those first 5 years of life. That's your biggest return on investment. It just makes sense. Not to mention the fact every child deserves a happy childhood. So why every child needs our investment. And I put this slide when I talk to communities because a lot of times, just by fact that you're in the room, you probably got what you needed those first 5 years of life, most likely. And your children probably did too. And your grandchildren are probably getting it, just by the fact that you're here, right? So I like to mention this to any groups I talk to because this is why every child needs our investment. Here's a kindergarten teacher in a boat. We talked about the dial-up baby brains and the high-speed internet baby brains when they get to kindergarten. If a teacher has 20 kids in her classroom, which is the state ratio, the state of Arkansas, those children who are hit her doors ready to learn, she's got her hand on the oar. She's ready to row them forward. But the children who aren't ready, she's trying to bail them out. She's catching them up. You talk about the word gap. Was it you about the word gap? Was a 30 million word gap by the kids when they hit kindergarten? Some children show up, and I think in the state of Arkansas, about 1/3 of children are not kindergarten ready when they hit kindergarten. It's a huge number. 29% of Arkansan children live in poverty. Children who are disadvantaged tend to have an achievement gap when they hit kindergarten. So the reason we invest in disadvantaged children is so that the advantaged children can go forward too. We got to bring them all up together so that we can all row forward. You can't make progress with one hand on an oar and one hand on a bucket. You can't maximize your progress. This is where Imagination Library of Saline County comes in. So I don't have to, y'all, I'm preaching to the choir on this. But hands down, this is, in my opinion, one of the very best investments we can make in early childhood because it's a very simple thing. We're putting books in the homes. 1 in 300 children, there's one book for every 300 children who live in poverty. One book for every 300 children who live in poverty. So we're putting books directly in the home. It's simple, it's inexpensive. If there was one thing you're going to do for a child to get them ready for kindergarten, it's read out loud. Behind feeding them. First we're going to feed, then we'll read. But behind your basic needs, reading out loud to a child is one of the most effective way, if not the most effective way, to get a child ready to learn. So that's why I love Imagination Library so much, is because it's simple, it's effective, it's a lot of bang for the buck. So here's a little bit of information about the benefit, and I probably don't have to tell y'all this. Y'all probably know all this. So they did a 20-year study, 27 countries, 70,000 cases. So a very large sample. Let me find a look. A very large sample, which in research world is really important. And here's what they found. In homes that have many books, children average 3 more years of schooling than the children in homes without books. And guess how many was? It was only 20. 20 was the tipping point, and we provide 60, right? So as few as 20 books, you have higher levels of education. And this was independent of socioeconomic status, and the big one was parental education. The mother's education determines a lot, and if a child's ready for kindergarten or not. And this was independent of parental education, so it was a really important study. There was another study done on Imagination Library specifically. If children who were enrolled 4 months or more, this is what they found. Parents reading to their child daily went from 29% to 59%. Reading 3 times a week or more went from 59% to 85%. Children being asked to be read to increased to 90%. And children being observed using books independently on their own increased 90% in those homes. Putting a book in a home is magic. So, DesArc, where are my DesArc people? I really just love these slides. So these are kindergarten scores from DesArc Elementary School in 2005. And you can see these were the 5 domains that are tested on the Qualls inventory, which is the kindergarten testing tool that every child gets when they enter kindergarten. So you can see the not developed, the developing, and the developed in these 5 domains. So I want you to watch the red bar. What happened was in 2009, Imagination Library was the children, what we consider fully enrolled. This DesArc, all the children in DesArc were part of Imagination Library. They started enrolling in 2005, but by 2009, pretty much everyone was enrolled. Okay, so I'm going to show you their 2013 Qualls scores. So this is after they've been in it for 4 or 5 years. Now, to be fair, there's other investments in early education going on in DesArc. So this is one of the investments. Now watch the red bar. Not one child entered kindergarten not developed in one of those 5 domains. That's amazing. There's some really cool things going on in DesArc. Research reveals that because of Imagination Library, children develop a comfort level with books early and begin to view books and themselves differently. They begin to see themselves as readers. Let me tell you why this is so important. This is a cultural change in a child and in a family. And when you can change the culture of something, It's a long-term, sustainable change. It's not a quick fix. It's not a Band-Aid. You've changed how a child thinks of themselves, and that is so incredibly important. If you can teach a child to love books, right? I mean, they're just set educationally. If I love to read, I see myself as a reader, that child's going places. So what can you do? Where were my people that were curious? Where are all my curiosity and questions people? Okay, I was just curious. I hope you're getting some answers. So what can you do as affiliates? I hope you advocate for early childhood investment policies. You guys have your fingers in a lot of pots, would be my guess. If you have an opportunity to speak up for early childhood investment, please do, whether it's Imagination Library or anything else. Because I work for A-State, I always put up ArkansasBetterBeginnings.com as one resource where you can go. And this is the state's quality rating improvement system that we work with to try to get child care centers to provide real quality experiences for those baby graces that are out there. You can champion or support an Imagination Library affiliate. If you've got one, a lot of you are affiliates already, but for those of you who are curious, start one, support one, find a way to plug into this great investment. And of course, just to let you know, to sponsor a child, it's only $2.10 per book a month. It's very inexpensive. $25 a year. Sometimes you spend that on dinner, and that sponsors a whole child for 1 year of books into their home. I always leave with this thought: if you think you're too small to make a difference, you have not spent the night with a mosquito. Right? So even the littlest investment in those first 5 years of life has a huge, significant impact.
And
that's
I
it.
want you to look at your attendance. She's a magician. She started on time and she finished.
There you go. Had no idea.
Time for Q&A. Those of you who are curious probably have questions, and those of you who are affiliates who have been around more than a year, or it takes a little while to get the ins and outs. There are questions and answers in this room. So why don't we go ahead and does anybody have a question about this particular research and all the things that she, oh, sorry. Am I going to be filmed too? Yes. Oh. Okay. Nobody has a question. Okay. Anybody have a question?
I don't have a question as much as a comment. On PBS, these last few weeks they've been running a special series on the brain, which is so fascinating. So if you get a chance, it comes on Wednesday nights tonight at 9, and it breaks it down into very understandable science, and it will blow your mind when you see it. So.
Thank you. You can go on YouTube and put in brain development, early childhood. There are so many cool videos that give quick information in bite-sized pieces, and they kind of break it down into something that's digestible and easily understood. I have not incorporated that into my presentation because it's just an AV technical nightmare sometimes, because I never know when I go to speak, like what the room is going to be like and what equipment they have and stuff. But it's a wonderful, very powerful pieces on there. Heckman organization, Harvard Center of Developing Child, 0 to 3, first 5 years funds. There's just many out there that are wonderful, wonderful resources. Especially if you're trying to raise money or change someone's mind about investing in your affiliate, it's wonderful resources out there.
Yes, ma'am.
One time I was reading to a kindergarten class and I held up an Imagination Library book, and a little girl said, "We've got that book, but my mother sold it at a garage sale."
Oh, no.
And I just felt like I'd been punched. And then I stood there and thought for a minute, and when we started, that mother had 4 preschoolers in the program. Which leads to my question, has it ever been considered to send different books to siblings?
Yes, they do.
Well, if they're in a different age bracket, from my experience, they will get different books. When they're 1-year-olds, like everybody gets, get this book?
Ultimately, they'll all.
But you know, it's their book.
That's
right?
true.
It's my book with my name on it. Even though sister has one, that's hers. And if you know anything about toddlers, especially, if it looks like mine, it's mine. If I'm thinking about it, it's mine. If I had it yesterday, it's mine. If I want it tomorrow, it's mine. You know.
And our 4-year-old great nephews, twins, their mothers said definitely to the
They
same.
get their own, right? So
Yeah, I was just going to say, we've had twins, and they were born on December 31st, so there was a place where I could go to make that happen. But it's really not a good thing. Because they both want to have their own book that looks like Big Brother and Big Sisters. How many of you are familiar with Llama Llama Red Pajama? Okay. I had next door neighbors that had 3 siblings at age down. By the time the 4-year-old was a 4-year-old, because as soon as that book comes on, the older child wants to take it because hers is worn out. But that's, oh look, my Llama Llama Red Pajama is in the room. But that whole series, you may think that having more than one copy of a good title, maybe shortchanges a sibling, but on the other hand, it's theirs and they want it to stay theirs. So I don't think so. Yes, ma'am.
I want to kind of ease your angst. Okay. Anybody who's had a toddler also knows that they want to read the same book over and over and over again, and that's an important cognitive development piece to that. But again, some kids are going to wear books out, and some books maybe aren't, read as much. But the fact that she sold this at a garage sale meant that somebody lower income could buy that book for maybe a quarter, and hey, hallelujah. I think that's great.
And it probably still has a label on it, but you cannot get those things.
Elaine.
And the book lists do change some from year to year too. So
Well, that was my question of how much they change. And
I think when I saw the Once Upon a Time, and it's been at the first Imagination Library homecoming that I came to, I think it was 4 years ago, they had that list available for us to see, and it was extensive. It was a lot more than it wasn't just 60 books that rotate through age. Jeff, can you address that?
Sure. Hi, everyone.
I'm sorry, this is Jeff Conyers. He's our National Executive Director.
Of the Value Foundation. So to answer the question, they turn over about 25 to 30% a year. Right. So out of a 12-book lineup, for each individual age group, 3 to 4 of them usually get replaced in a year. There's a handful of them that you'll see in the Imagination Library year after year, and it's because they're, at least
classics.
The collection committee feels like they're classics that every child needs to experience. But there's a lot of great children's books that come in as well. The other reason why we're keen on maintaining some level of turnover is because the publishing industry, particularly around children's books, has not been historically known to be great in terms of diversity. And we certainly, with what we do at the Imagination Library in the world, are talking to our publishing partner, Penguin Random House. You probably have seen national news stories about this. There's a discussion that's happening with the publishing industry, all the way from people that they hire, to publishers, to authors that they publish, to children's books that they publish, are finally getting the message that, hey, we need more diversity in the books, and the books need to reflect the children and communities that they're being read in. And so our book selection committee makes a conscious choice to include diversity in the books. To date, it's been done a lot through animals and things like this, but we're finally seeing more children of color and more culture in the books, and so that's something that we're really keen on making sure that we continue to work into the Imagination Library. One other thing too, I would just add, on the book selection itself, we historically have had some books in the Imagination Library that had Spanish-English titles, and we had to remove those some years ago because the quick version is we began mailing books into Canada, USA books into Canada, and the first round of Spanish-English books that we mailed into Canada unleashed a wave of phone calls, and they said, hey, wait a minute, we don't have many Spanish-speaking families up here, it's more French-English, and culturally we just weren't making the connection. Fortunately, we finally have bridged that gap where we have some Canadian-specific titles now that are going in. So in 2016 now, 2 of the 12 books in each age group are now going to have Spanish-English in the title. So we're finally getting back into something that's constantly being asked for is bilingual books.
Another thing, one comment before I forget it. I'm old, so if I don't say it now, I'll forget. But matter of fact, I've already forgotten. Go ahead, Eddie Lee.
From the child development standpoint, could you talk about relationship piece of it, the emotional connection from the child to the caregiver, and the time they're spending together,
So-
the importance of that.
More and more research that comes out all the time. Everything that a child learns is in the context of relationship, pretty much. That's the number one vehicle for what a child's learning. So you have that serve and return, right? So if she's on a phone over here. So if I look at you and the baby looks back at me and I say, oh, la, 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 and the baby looks at me, all that, you can tell babies just, their brains are just lit up like crazy. If a baby makes a noise and we turn and look at the baby, if the baby reaches and we pick the baby up. So it's just that back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. As they get older, it becomes conversation and interaction. But I think, if I'm not mistaken, Jody, you can help me, the number one, the most important thing that we evaluate, or that should be evaluated in terms of our children getting what they need, is going to be positive adult-child interaction. Between the teacher and the child, between the parent and the child, the caregiver and the child, it's relationships. But doesn't that make sense as adults? Right? Even as adults. I think the number one thing that kind of drives us is a sense of connectedness and a sense to belong. It drives our churches, it drives our schools, it drives us in families and friendships and marriages. You want to be connected and you want to belong. And that is wired into our brains. Unfortunately, children get neglected and abused in those first 5 years of life. They actually have what we call holy brains. Their brains are smaller, and they don't have as much gray matter. There's actual black spots. You can see it on like an MRI. And what's really depressing is you can't fix that. Like once when the windows of opportunity for that brain growth close, they're closed, and children get one childhood. That's it. You don't get to go back and fix it. That's not to say you can't learn things later and mitigate negative circumstances and all that stuff, but that child will never be what they could have been. They'll never develop to that level of mastery and those skills and things that they could have attained if they don't get it when those windows of opportunity are open. And so many of those windows are open those first 5 years of life.
Yes. So we were at what are we doing? Standards meeting.
Early learning center.
Yeah, one of the consultants we work with said there's some new research out talking about those children that, and it's the stress, but that would be the neglect and all of that, and not making those connections, that they're the part of the brain that has to do with executive function. So, I mean, even if we can get the cognitive part in, the part of the brain that has to do with executive function does not develop the way it should. And so even if you could make up all of the oral language and all of that other...
We give you all these numbers and letters and shapes and colors, and that's all great.
But they can't problem solve.
We can't make decisions. They can't make decisions because we've made all the decisions for them. You're going to do this now, you're going to do it here, and you're going to do it this way. Or we don't let them interact with their peers enough to figure out negotiation, compromise, and sharing. Or we problem solve for them when you're fighting over a toy. Well, I'll just fix that. Let me just take that away and put it up. Well, you taught the child nothing, right? All you've just done is now two of them are crying instead of one. Now neither one of them have a toy. So we're learning all these what James Heckman calls soft skills. And aren't these the skills that we need in a workforce and as adults? You need people who are motivated, who are leaders, who have self-confidence, who know how to make good decisions, who can compromise, who can interact with their peers. The windows of opportunity for that kind of development, guess when they are? The first 5 years of life. So it just freaks me out when I think about what we do with our children sometimes in these childcare centers that I go in, and I just, they're not learning. We tell them what not to do, but we don't stop and teach them what to do. And back to your point, so when you get a book in the mailbox, right, first of all, I've got something exciting, and I'm going to take that book and I'm going to hand it to Mama. And so, first of all, I put a book in the home for children who live in poverty, don't have books. They might have other things, but they don't have books. So that's number one, huge barrier taking care of. There's a book in the home. And now I hand it to Mama. It's a prompt for Mama to stop what she's doing and read. So if you've got those professional parents that are really, really busy, it's that prompt to stop for a second. Even if they have the time, the other barrier it eliminates is it's developmentally appropriate. So even if I have all the money and all the time in the world, I might not have the know-how to know what book I should choose for this child. So it eliminates the fact that there may not be books in the home, so it's a poverty issue, it's a child development issue. I know what books are developmentally appropriate. And it's a time prompt for busy parents to
stop for 1 second and sit down, put that child in your lap, that social emotional connection. That's what's firing that brain. Yes, they're being exposed to book orientation and words and pictures and diversity and all these great things in the book, but there's so much more going on in that because that brain is lit up and fired up because I'm having a great positive social emotional connection with this person who takes care of me, and then the learning takes place with the book.
Mike Mertens.
You mentioned full implementation earlier. Do you know how many public schools in Arkansas have full implementation?
Desark and
Prairie and Union. Clark is close behind. But
the county, they have full implementation for all the
for the county. Oh,
districts
excuse
in
me.
that county.
All of yours. Full implementation in Desark. I'd have to
Is it
check.
Hazen too?
Hazen has a split. Some of the kids that go to Hazen to school are in Lonoke County, and Lonoke County does not yet have it. But we're trying to. That's why we're really pushing hard for the statewide for every child. Because so if they happen to move to Lonoke County or live there now, they're not at a disadvantage. I'm looking for my. For Rhonda Betzner. Ah, there you are. You are the one who can address that question about some of the kids you get in your program that have had the books because they're in Prairie and the ones who don't because they're in Lonoke. What have you noticed?
Well, I would say that probably 90% of the students in Heisen have it.
What about the Lonoke kids, and is there a difference?
I don't know about that.
Okay. But I thought you had some registrations that came from there and didn't. Okay.
But I don't know what percentage.
Okay. All right.
But most of the students in Heisen would be, but it's the school itself. I'm in the hippie program, so we register all the kids that are in hippie, which is 75% of the kids before they enter school.
And Head Start enters, also does the same thing in our county. So we use some collaborative partners for that. But back to brain research, I'll get to more market. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Are there any more pressing questions that you'd like to try at this particular moment? I did finally remember what I was going to say on the book deal. One of the things that, and I think this is a dirty word to teachers some, but not all, Common Core requires pictures, actual physical photographs in books, and they're incorporating that into our book system too, things that are realistic, that are nature-based, that are, the one that pops to my mind was the Blue Jay one. And there's one on butterflies and how to make a butterfly garden. I mean, these books, by the way, are read to the kids, but my kindergarten, first and second grade teachers like them a lot because they can implement those things, and they are read 2 books when they're little and read by me books. Oh, I had that one. Let me go ahead and read that again. And I've got another testimony in the room I'll probably get to later about older siblings that have aged out and are mad at us for not giving them the books after their 5th birthday. But fortunately, they get to have a younger sibling, and they're getting to read those books to their own brother or sister. Question? Yes, ma'am.
On the chart that you put up for the full implementation, was that taken from Paul's report? What is the process for getting that information? Like for us, we started our program in 2012.
It's get from your school district. Now, Qualls is going away. Do we know yet what it's being replaced with?
It's going away. The RFP will go out in the spring, and then we'll do training. So the fall of 2016, we will be implementing a new. It's not an assessment. It is a screener. We will be implementing a
new way to measure data. Right. I mean,
Well, no, not the way. It's replacing the Qualls. The Qualls is a screener, and it currently does not have social, emotional, and physical. So it doesn't meet all the domains for pre-K and even the Common Core. So it's going away. And it will be replaced in 2016 with a new screener that will be used for kindergarten entry.
So all that to say, if you want to do longitudinal tracking, Qualls may not serve you now because it's going away. Unless you're just curious to know.
But you can get it. It's on the Hive website. You can actually compare your district to other districts.
And they have also what's called a GPS in the school districts, where teachers are supposed to be able to access all of that information.
I think what I'm asking is, how would I track, okay, how the children were going into school before we started the program and then after to show results?
Boy, that's a loaded question. You don't even know what you just said.
Okay, I do. I actually do know.
With the quals, because the quals is not an assessment, it's a screener.
Well, so it's the new thing, it's a screener.
But the purpose of the quals is for the teachers to have a quick check of where they're functioning, so they can see where to work with it. There's no
Right.
post data for that.
No.
That gives them information to see where they need to work.
Right, you have to track like benchmarks and things.
But speaking of that, the third.
Imagination Library and after the just your school district.
That's what I was just going to say. Your school district has to be cooperative. Your early childhood literacy coach would be a place to do it. But right now, because of this transition and the fact that QUALS was not a panacea of evaluation. It was just a place that we could make a comparison. And I don't know that anything such does exist, but I do know this. Third grader benchmarks are higher in Des Arc. We're the #1 Title I school in the state. It has gone up to the 8th grade level, and that quadrant of kids that we started with, was this a magic bullet? Definitely not. Was it a rich resource that was universally shared, that made a difference in human interaction, family engagement, community support? That's what I can prove. But we don't have to prove it. The kids' lives will prove it because of the changes that are made. Okay, y'all want to network?
What were the 3 school districts that had it?
I'll answer in just a second. Please feel free to talk around your table. If you want to get up and ask somebody else or whatever, we have about 10 minutes where we can do that. And if you need to take a break, this might be an opportunity.